Napoleon, and I understand why the French people didn't like it. No, I'm not going to nitpick about all the details that were and were not correct, because let's face it, you're not going to the movies to learn. You're going to the movies to get entertained, and I'd rather avoid spoilers if I can. Depending on your point of view, you may or may not like the direction in which Ridley Scott took this film. I appreciated the brilliantly designed period clothing and the straightforward timeline. Napoleon is a movie loosely based on the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, France's one and only emperor. Any movie with so many explosions and epic battle scenes is a must-see in the theater for me. However, brutally realistic depictions of violence and somewhat lewd sex scenes might make this movie inappropriate for some audiences. Personally, I really like Joaquin Phoenix as an actor, and the superb horseback riding was definitely something to see. Now, the details of the next movie I saw are a little bit more important, because it can get real racist real fast. I saw Killers of the Flower Moon, and the first thing I noticed was that they made a few anti-Semitic remarks that perpetuated the myth that all Jews were white, racist, eager to grab money and power, who should be pitted against people of color. Of course, this isn't true. And secondly, I noticed that they didn't exactly explain the restrictions on the Osage people very well. In real life, the Osage people were not even allowed to have their own money without a white guardian if they were 50% Osage or more. They kind of alluded to this in the movie, but they didn't exactly explain it real well. The movie was 3.5 hours long, but I don't think they could have made it any shorter. They needed all 3.5 hours to tell the story, and they even came up with a unique way to tie things up in the end. Killers of the Flower Moon is about a conspiracy to murder the Osage people for their oil money. If you're looking for a feel-good story where everyone ends up happy in the end, this is not the story for you. However, this may be the only way that you learn what happened to the Native Americans in our country. I do question anybody who looks at true crime stories as a form of entertainment. One positive thing I can say about Killers of the Flower Moon is that it was good to see Brendan Fraser finally getting some roles. The last film I went to go see was Ballad of the Songbirds, starring Rachel Zegler, the woman who is single-handedly destroying Snow White for a generation. Ballad of the Songbirds is the prequel to The Hunger Games and is basically the backstory to President Snow. I did not like the composition of many of the shots, nor did I like the aesthetic of the school uniforms. It was difficult for me to get into the original Hunger Games movies, and so I was not expecting much going into this one. However, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked the plot. It was much more nuanced and added various perspectives to the story. Plus, it explained a lot more about the Hunger Games in ways I had not heard before, so that things finally seemed to make sense to me.